Trevor Noah is leaving The Daily Show. Matthew Fox returns to TV. And Cars from Disney and Pixar gets its own series of shorts. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to TV news and reviews for the week. We're going to talk about 6 shows in review form. We've got Devil in Ohio on Netflix, Last Light on Peacock, which is the new Matthew Fox program. Of course, we know him from Lost and Party of Five. Tell Me Lies, which is sort of a mystery thing on Hulu. Life by Ella, which is another Apple TV Plus young adult series about a middle school girl. Also on Apple TV Plus, Gutsy, which is produced by and sort of starring Hillary and Chelsea Clinton. It's sort of a docu-series. And then Cars on the Road, a new short series from the world of the Pixar Cars, and Owen Wilson back in the driver's seat of that one. But before all of that, of course, it is time for the news, which is how we start each week here on TV News and Review. So let's start off with the renewals. We've got Big Brother looking at season 25, which will air next summer. That is a surprise to nobody. We talked about this last week, that the current season, well, the season that just wrapped up, I should say, of Big Brother was the #1 program in all of television, be it broadcast, streaming, anything. More eyeballs on the Big Brother stuff this summer than anything else. So that obviously makes a ton of sense that they would be bringing that back. Jimmy Kimmel re-upped his contract with ABC. He is going to be on 3 more seasons, taking him now through season 23. Which means by that point, he will be one of the longest running late-night talk show hosts of all time. I think the leader really from all the different variety of shows is Conan. But that's over the course of 3 completely separate shows. Letterman also long-term as well, but that was over 2 shows. And then Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, I think was he like right at 30 years, I think he left. So, you know, for one program, I think that's about the record. But Jimmy Kimmel Live, you know, it's the only program he's been on. They've shifted the time slots a little bit, but at 23 years, he will certainly be in contention for one of the longest. And then finally, Reservation Dogs on FX on Hulu. I was so happy to hear this. Season 2 just finished airing, and we're going to get now a 3rd season. I never saw season 2 yet, but season 1 was amazing. I mean, it was one of my, I don't know if it was top 5, but it was definitely top 10 shows for me of that year, and it was on a bunch of year-end lists. It didn't get any Emmy love, which, you know, I don't know what that was about, you know, but really, really good stuff there if you are not watching Reservation Dogs, something to check out. And then in terms of series endings, Queer as Folk is done at Peacock. The reboot that they had, that just went 1 season then. And that is finished. Over to casting news. This is sort of series ending news as well, but Trevor Noah is leaving The Daily Show. He made this announcement on one of the recent broadcasts. Nobody really knew. I mean, I'm sure the producers knew and stuff, but you know, nobody in the audience knew. He announced it, and it was this big shock. But he made it clear that he is not just leaving right away. They're going to, you know, take some time, find a replacement. But what he learned during the pandemic is that he wants to explore more avenues that he has not, you know, really been a part of for the last several years because The Daily Show is so taxing, which, you know, totally makes sense. But he loves doing stand-up. His book, by the way, Born a Crime, excellent read. I read that over the pandemic, and they're, I think, still making that into a movie, from what I understand. But he decided after 7 years he's, you know, sort of going to wind down on The Daily Show. Patti LaBelle is going to be joining the cast of the new Wonder Years. We don't have a season 2 yet for that. I guess it's going to be a mid-season replacement coming in January. It is not currently on ABC schedule, but Patti LaBelle is in at least 2 episodes so far. She's going to play Bill's mother. That is the Dule Hill character. And, you know, maybe more to come after that, but always good to see Ms. LaBelle. And then Amazon's anthology series called Them, which I really, really did not care for. I thought it was like really trying to be Jordan Peele. You know, Jordan Peele had a movie called Us. This is called Them. It was very, you know, a bit too on the nose for me, but some interesting names as part of season 2 of this anthology. It's going to include Pam Grier, the wonderful Pam Grier from 70s blaxploitation movies all the way up to Tarantino's Jackie Brown and stuff like that. And then Luke James from The Chi on Showtime is going to be a part of this as well. It's still going to be set in LA County like the first season, but they're going to move it time-wise from 1952 to 1991. And if memory serves, 91, I think, was the Rodney King stuff in LA County. So if I remember, and that could have been maybe 92, but I feel like if they're picking 91, it's probably specifically, for something like that. So that will be coming up. In announced programs, Eugenio Derbez, who is, already on a bunch of Apple TV shows and movies, including Acapulco and Coda. He was in that Oscar winner. He's going to star in and executive produce a comedy with the working title of They Came at Night, which is in development at VIX Plus. I've never heard of this. I don't know what it is, but it is the streaming platform from Univision. So, I don't watch, a lot of Spanish-speaking programming, so I was kind of unfamiliar with this. But it sounds interesting. So it's a workplace show, but it's a comedy here about the cast and crew making a Spanish-language version of Dracula in 1930. This really did happen, and they were, filming at night instead of the daytime, like the American English version, using the same sets and costumes and everything. So it'll be an interesting, I don't think it's going to be historical necessarily, but I think that is clever for a TV show, not something we've necessarily seen before in a workplace comedy. So looking forward to that. And then in other announced programs, Vince Gilligan is going to reunite with Rhea Seehorn. Of course, they just wrapped Better Call Saul together. But Apple TV Plus is bringing an untitled series so far that they've given at least 2 seasons to. So they have some faith in this, but there's nothing revealed about it. We know nothing about, the storyline, what Rhea Seehorn's character is going to be doing. But Gilligan has said that it's not going to be another anti-hero story like Breaking Bad, like Better Call Saul. It's going to be something a little bit different for him. So that should be cool. I have to finish Saul. I did watch all of Breaking Bad. I've done that. I think I like Saul better, and I really like her character. She plays Kim Wexler on Better Call Saul. So looking forward to more from that team up. In some odds and ends news, Dead to Me on Netflix has a season 3 premiere date. And I mentioned this because it's one of my favorite shows. November 17th, we'll see the 3rd and final season of Dead to Me. I may get my good buddy Melissa, who reviewed the 1st and the 2nd seasons with me, and they weren't episode by episode. We went episode by episode through the video, but it was just one video for each season. So we may do that same thing. It comes out right before Thanksgiving, so things are a little bit wackadoo at that time period. So we'll see, but maybe in early December we can get a video up about that. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the people that run the Golden Globes, they have announced they're going to be splitting the actor and actress supporting categories starting this year. So in the next Golden Globes, you can expect to see musical, comedy, or drama as one supporting category, and then limited anthology or miniseries in another supporting category, which seems sort of weird. Oh, why are you putting the comedies with the dramas? But understand that previous to this, they had just one supporting actor category and one supporting actress category. So you did everything, TV show, be it comedy, drama, musical, whatever, and limited series, anthology series, TV movies, all wrapped into one category, which I never did quite understand. So at least they're separating it into those 2 categories. And yes, they will be airing the Golden Globes again on TV. NBC is going to be doing that again, I believe. This past year, they did not do it. They said that the Hollywood Foreign Press really needs to shape up their diversity efforts. They had 0 black members. I think there were a small handful of Asian members, but I think there's only, and we learned this, I forget now because it was about a year ago that we talked about it, but we learned that there was only like 70 or 80 some people in the Hollywood Foreign Press. Those people, less than 100 people, decide all of the awards. It's nuts to me, when you consider the Academy has thousands of people for the Oscars. So anyway, but we'll look forward to that come usually late January. And then finally in more odds and ends news about streamers, we are going to have another name change. We just had IMDb TV go to Freevee. We had CBS All Access a couple years ago go to Paramount Plus. Now Epix is going to bite the dust in name and is going to be called MGM Plus. Another friggin' plus that we have to deal with. But I guess maybe Epix is, a sort of a unfocused name. And I didn't actually realize it was a streaming service only. I thought it was a channel that just had a streaming component because I don't have cable anymore. So I just assumed it was a pay channel like HBO, and then you have HBO Max or Showtime, but then you have a Showtime app. I have the Showtime app and I have HBO Max, but I don't have HBO. I don't have Showtime, but whatever. Maybe I was wrong about that all along, but it's going to become MGM Plus in January. In fact, it's going to coincide with the season 3 premiere of one of their biggest shows, Godfather of Harlem. So we can expect season 3 of that January 15th, and right around that, or maybe right on that day, they're going to become MGM Plus. And then finally, in reboots and spinoffs, Inside Amy Schumer is returning for a long-awaited 5th season on Paramount Plus. They're not really calling it a reboot necessarily, but it's been off the air for, I think, 7 years. And the previous home was Comedy Central, but Paramount Plus is home to a lot of the Comedy Central stuff. So it makes sense it would premiere there. And then Community. This is more sort of in movie news, but this is, TV related certainly. But Community is finally getting the movie that has been promised to us since a joke in season 2. Told about 6 seasons and a movie. It became a famous hashtag because of the show. And I stopped watching probably in season 2, or maybe I made it all the way through the season. But, I've always sort of wanted to go back. I know some people whose opinions I trust highly on matters of TV shows, including my old buddy from high school, Joe, that does the Joe's Crazy Adventures channel here on YouTube, and my buddy Tim, that is a frequent guest on my channel. They have both said, how Community is just one of their favorites. So, I guess at some point before this movie comes out, I'll check it out. But only 6 of the 9 core players are going to return for the Peacock film. Obviously, Chevy Chase, they had so much drama there. He's not going to return. But Donald Glover, and interestingly enough, Yvette Nicole Brown are both so far not signed on for the movie. But I don't know. I mean, Yvette Nicole Brown appears on game shows all the time. Like, she's working and she's doing stuff. So I can't imagine they won't get her. And Donald Glover, I hope they can at least get for a cameo or something. But there was a bidding war. It wasn't just, yes, Peacock's going to definitely put this up. The producers went through a bidding war with several different streaming outlets and networks. So very, very cool. We should see that at some point in 2023. All right, let's move over to the review portion of the show. We're going to first talk about Devil in Ohio. And this is based on a book. It's over on Netflix, and it features Emily Deschanel from the old Bones program on Fox. She plays this hospital psychiatrist. And Sam Jaeger from Parenthood. He plays the husband here. And the show is basically about this gal, May, who is a teenager, played by Madeline Arthur. Not really familiar with her, but she does a pretty good job of being like a kind of mysterious, like, is this girl loony? Is she a murderer? Is she just, a teenage girl that's, going through depression and whatever? It's interesting stuff there. But she is a teenager that comes to the hospital with a big pentagram carved on her back, an inverted pentagram, actually. And the Emily Deschanel character is a psychiatrist, so she sort of talks to her and doesn't get a lot of info at first, but eventually they're looking for a foster family for this girl. Can't really find one, so she says, you know what, we'll take her in. And she's got 3 kids of her own that are sort of vying for the attention of the adults as well. So this ends up being a mystery show, a drama for sure as well, I would say. But more like what's going on with this girl. In episode 2, we see some flashback stuff of, when she was a little bit younger. Look, this show is all right, but it reminds me a lot of a show that I think was also on Netflix with Michelle Monaghan that I just reviewed last week, in where I said that, like, I sort of see the bones of what they're doing here, no pun intended, with the Emily Deschanel starring on Bones, but I see sort of, what their plan of attack is, but the show moves so incredibly slowly. We need to sort of, up the excitement level here of the episodes. And I thought it would have worked better had it been a 2 hour movie instead of a mini series. And look, when you're adapting a book, when you think about it, most books turn into 2.5 hour movies. They don't turn into 8 hour miniseries. Some do. Roots obviously is a great example of that, but in the recent era, they're trying to make all these books into 6, 7, 8 hour series, and a lot of time it's just unnecessary. I mean, even the Harry Potter books, as huge as those were, most of those were just turned into one film that was, a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So the idea, the audacity, that this show or that this book, Devil in Ohio, is so great it needs an 8 hour explanation. I again, much like the Michelle Monaghan show, and I do think the acting's a little better here from the side players for sure. And I think the central mystery is better, so it's certainly going to get a higher grade from me. But overall, I just didn't find the pacing engaging enough. I will say again that this Madeline Arthur, I don't know her. I don't know. Let me see if I know her from anything. All right, she was a young girl in the movie Big Eyes, which I did like. I saw that. She's been in Supernatural, which I don't really watch. And she was in Okay. She was in the trilogy of To All the Boys. So I guess I have seen her before because I've seen all three of those movies. But obviously these were, a few years ago, so she's a bit older now. But she's still, I don't know, I would say this character is probably supposed to be 15-ish, 16 maybe. So, about the same age as the eldest daughter in the family. So look, I think it's better than the Michelle Monaghan one, but again, I just don't think this is paced out well enough to be 8 episodes. I will say each of them aren't a full hour in the usual Netflix fashion. They're each only about 43 to 45 minutes, but still, that's well over 6 hours for the whole thing. So yeah, I didn't finish it. I just watched those first 2 episodes. I may finish it, I may not. I like the central mystery, but it just really needed to pick up that pace. I'm going to leave Devil in Ohio with a C. I thought about a plus. I'll just leave it with a C. I think that's good for it. All right, up next is going to be Last Light. This is over on Peacock, and it is Matthew Fox's return to television. Of course, we all know him from Party of Five in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, Lost, one of the great shows. And here he plays a chemist named Andy Yates, and he is going through a big crisis of his life and his job because the world is dependent on oil, and if something were to happen to this oil dependency, or the oil supply, I should say, then a chain reaction sets off and everything is going to grind to a halt, including, the trucking industry and transportation and all of that. So, he goes to this Middle East business trip and realizes, oh my God, my biggest fears are coming true. What are we going to do? Now, look, I like Matthew Fox, but he is, I would say, the only person really holding this thing together. A lot of the other people I don't necessarily recognize, but his wife is played by Joanna Froggatt. And she has this side plot with his young son, played by Taylor Faye, who is a horrible children's actor. Every time we go to their storyline, the show just grinds to a halt. I don't care about any of that. It's bad acting from really both of them, but mainly the kid. And then, we go back to Matthew Fox, but it's sort of, similar stuff that we've seen before with maybe not necessarily oil, but, world ending, world disaster kind of things, and I need to save the day, and how do I do this? And maybe there's people after me that, don't want this to go through. It's a story that we've seen so many times. And Matthew Fox is okay, I guess. It could be that the script is not great, or it could honestly be that he's just been out of the acting game for many years, and maybe he's a bit rusty, to be completely honest. But it could be a mixture of both. But all of the side actors here are just like they're fresh out of like high school theater class or something. Like, it's not good acting at all. But I don't think the script helps it. I don't think the side plots help it at all either. So yeah, overall, this is kind of a mess. I was really looking forward to it too. I mean, one good thing is there's only 5 episodes of this. It's a very limited series. But yeah, things that we've seen so many times before done remarkably better on all aspects. This was, boring, which I wasn't expecting either, based on the premise and based on my enjoyment usually of Matthew Fox. But yeah, none of this really was working for me. It could be one of the worst dramas of the year. I'm going to leave Last Light with a D. Not starting out very strongly in this episode of TV News and Reviews, I will say. All right, so Tell Me Lies is next. And this is over on Hulu. And again, a limited run series, but this one there's going to be 10 episodes of. And I think it could maybe, hold some interest for that. I could see maybe 10 hours for this. But basically, it unfolds over an 8-year span, starting with these characters in college and sort of meeting each other, in their late teens, maybe early 20s. And the choices they make at that point sort of, going throughout their lives with different consequences. And it's sort of a romance story as well. But there's a lot of like side stories here with the friends and everything. Again, this isn't one that I'm like nuts about, but I would say it's probably better than both of the two. It's definitely better than Last Light, but I would say it's probably better than the first show we talked about as well, Devil in Ohio. The acting here is a bit better. It's a bit soapy in the sense that, like, there's a lot going on with each character, and not that they're necessarily one note, but because we're doing it over an 8-year span, we're sort of going back and forth in the timeline and jumping around a bit, and there is a central mystery as well to this that doesn't really happen till the end of the first episode, so I don't really want to go into it. But this is based on a book as well. We're doing 10 episodes now based on this book. But at least it's Hulu, and they're pumping them out weekly, so you can watch sort of at a slower pace than trying to binge, 5 or 6 episodes at once. And I think there's maybe 6 episodes up now because they put 2 or 3 up the first week. But in any event, the acting here is okay. I don't really know a lot of the people here. Grace Van Patten is the star of it. And she was in the Hulu series 9 Perfect Strangers, but with so many A-listers in that, she kind of got lost in the shuffle. I don't really remember her from that. And then her boyfriend is played by Jackson James White, who was the boy in Mrs. Fletcher, which was a great I think that was HBO miniseries with Catherine Hahn starring in that. That was sort of a comedy miniseries that they did, like, I think 6 episodes of. But he also recently was in this movie Ambulance that was pretty cool. So these aren't big stars, but you may know them from some things. And they have nice chemistry together, the two of them. The only thing that I do like, and you have to sort of suspend the disbelief for this, but since we're spanning 8 years in their lives, most of these actors are in their mid to late 20s, because the characters end up, I think, like around 26 or so, 27. And then when we flash back to the college stuff, they're supposed to be playing 18 and 19-year-olds, and it's like, oh, God, this is, obviously not, what they are. But I see so many TV shows and movies do that, that it's not something that affects me really. But it is interesting because we see them on both ends of the spectrum. Usually you only see them in high school. And if they're 24, 25, you're like, okay, well, we can move past it. But, since these guys and gals are playing both sort of sides of it. But, yeah, it's okay. None of the series this week are really wowing me. But I do think it's more interesting probably than the 2 shows we've already talked about. The acting, I think, on most fronts is probably better, except for maybe the gal in Devil in Ohio, the young girl playing May. but again, I actually ended up starting the first episode like 3 different times because I was sort of doing something else, and I just wasn't paying attention because it wasn't as riveting. But then about halfway through the first episode, things get a bit more interesting. We learn a bit more about sort of the background of the characters and stuff. But yeah, the chain reaction of events, that we see moving forward, it's mildly interesting, I guess. I will leave Tell Me Lies with a C+. Next is Life by Ella. This is on Apple TV Plus, and this is the latest really in a long line of these sort of live action tween and teen types of shows. We had and I always forget names of shows because I watch so many of them, but the one about the girl Amber Brown, that was it. About and she was such a good little actress too, but, about her going to a new school and her parents getting divorced. And then you had the kid, Best Foot Forward was the other one with the kid where he was, he has a fake leg from an accident. So the deal with this is this girl, Ella, played by Lily Brooks O'Brien, not O'Brien, but well, maybe it is O'Brien, I don't know. But in any event, I have not seen her before, but her deal is she is a cancer survivor. She had childhood cancer, and so she is known sort of around town and at her new school as the girl with the cancer. When she returns to school after a couple of years off or whatever of, getting healthy and doing the chemo and stuff, she's got a little brother, Grady, who is super irritating, played by Aiden Wallace. And he's, a cute kid. And I get the character. I get what they're doing with him. He's meant to be irritating, but he's, a little brother. So it's like everything needs to be about him. I'm sick of, my cancer-stricken sister getting all the attention, blah, blah, blah. Not great. And then Kevin Rahm plays the father who is just trying to keep it all together. And I saw him most recently in Madam Secretary, sort of like a discount James Spader. He's got sort of that similar look, but about 20 years younger. Of the 3 shows in this vein here recently on Apple TV Plus, this is the worst one. And the reason why is, and I'm not saying that these characters are necessarily not believable, but they're just rather unlikable. And I'm not going to say teenagers don't act like this sometimes, and I'm certainly not going to say that they're always peaches and cream like maybe in the other shows a little bit. But there's just sort of a unlikable nature to these lead characters. This girl, I understand her plight, and obviously, cancer sucks. We know this. She's returning to school though, and she's just very, very unpleasant to her old friends, to her teachers, to her father, to her brother. She's like unpleasant to everybody. And it's like, we gotta give this girl something here to make us like her a little bit, other than, oh, she's the cancer girl. So I think maybe they could have tweaked that a little bit. The little brother, I understand his reasoning. It sort of makes sense, and it goes with the character of what he would do. And, they're all fine actors, I suppose. It's a little, Disney Channel-ish, but so are all of these shows that I've mentioned. Best Foot Forward, I don't think is going to be winning Emmy Awards for acting, But Apple TV Plus really, I say it all the time, is the best home for these kids' programs. I think they do such an excellent job of shows that don't necessarily pander to their audience, like maybe a Disney Channel, and they don't sort of, take off the well of, let's find a kid on TikTok that's, has a following or something and put them in a show. That's what they did with Young Dylan, and I think that one's on Nickelodeon. But Disney Channel and Nickelodeon both sort of have been doing that lately, and I've bitched about that. But at least these are people who clearly went to some sort of acting school, but they still have sort of that like little kid Disney Channel type of persona. But anyway, this is an okay show. I would recommend the other 2 more, Amber Brown and Best Foot Forward. I will leave Life by Ella with a C+. Let's stay on Apple TV Plus for Gutsy. This is a docu-series. I think there's 8 episodes of this, with Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton. So look, I'll say up front, this is going to be a divisive show because even though it really isn't that political in nature, look, there's a lot of people out there that don't like the Clinton family that don't like Hillary specifically. So, all right. I understand that there, is that sort of vibe there for some people. And if that's the case, you're never going to watch this anyway. So it barely matters what I have to say about it. But if you do like the Clintons, or at least don't hate them, this may be one to check out. It's basically just a showcase of trailblazing women, both famous and unknown, that set out to answer the question in each episode: what does it take to be a gutsy woman? And each episode sort of has a different theme. The first episode is all about being funny and what it means to be a funny woman in today's society. And they have some interviews with Wanda Sykes and Amy Schumer, and they go to a comedy club called Caroline's with some performers I was unfamiliar with that sort of talked about all that. But it's not just women they talk to, it's guys as well. They went to France to an actual clowning school and talked to the guy who's been running it for like 50 years, into what makes a clown, essentially. So look, it's some interesting stuff. It's edited very well. There's some quick cuts here. It's obviously a little bit on the scripted side of things. But to be honest, my biggest issue with it is that Apple TV Plus already has a lot of shows in this similar vein. In fact, some of the people from this series are featured in some of those other shows as well. For example, Jane Goodall, they had a show called Dear, DEAR, ... It was people that wrote letters about how these, famous people inspired them. And they did one with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and they did one with the gal from Blackish, and they did one with Oprah, I think maybe. But one of them was Jane Goodall. Well, one of these episodes of Gutsy is like heavy into the Jane Goodall, and it's like, all right, well, we just kind of saw a little bit about that in the Dear program. And then also Oprah had her own show, maybe a couple of different shows, on Apple TV Plus, where she interviews, successful people and talks about their success and whatever. So, and then Kim Kardashian features into one of the episodes. Well, Dave Letterman did an hour with Kim Kardashian on his Netflix show. So they're pulling a little bit from, look, I get it. There's only so many people that we care about to go around. But I do like the themes here. I'm, obviously a big supporter of women. And as a gay man, look, I like the Clinton family. I do. So, if you're sort of on the fence, or you like the Clinton family, I think this will be something maybe you want to check out if you like docuseries and interview series and stuff like that. But obviously, if you look at the ratings and stuff on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, it's like, way in the toilet because people just review bomb. I'm not as high on this show as I am on certain other, interview shows. Dear specifically, I thought that was a really good one. But I like that. I like how sharply this is sort of edited and very quick pace. It's like they'll be with Wanda Sykes for like 90 seconds, and then they'll talk to these other people. But then they'll intersperse it. They'll go back to Wanda a little bit later and talk about something that was mentioned by one of the other comedians, and then Wanda will give her take on it. So it's sort of something that we go sort of back and forth with some of the people. So one of the best of the week for me. I will give Gutsy a B. And then finally, we've got Cars on the Road. When there's a kids show, I usually end with that one. And this is, of course, coming from the world of Cars over on Pixar. And they've done a series of shorts before. They might have even had their own half-hour show or something. But most of the main cast was not involved with that. Owen Wilson was not part of it. Larry the Cable Guy might have been. But a lot of the main people were not in that. So this is sort of a different take on that. It's more of a road trip show where, and each one literally, it says, I ended up watching all of these. I think there's 9 of these. You can watch all 9 of these in less than 90 minutes because they're each really only about 7 or 8 minutes once you take out the end credits, because the end credits are like 4 minutes because they do the credits, but then it's a streamer, so then they do all the foreign language credits too, who did the different voices in the foreign languages or whatever. So it says like 11 or 12 minutes, but they're literally like 7 minutes each, 8 minutes. So I just busted through all these. But a lot of the people from the original movie are back in sort of more recurring roles, because in the first episode is when Mater and Lightning McQueen decide to go on the road trip. They're going to see the sister's wedding, Mater's sister's wedding. But at the beginning, you see, Jennifer Lewis and Tony Shalhoub and Bonnie Hunt, reprising their roles from the movies. Look, I'm a Cars fan. I know that it is sort of the redheaded stepchild of the Pixar, franchises and of the movies. I really enjoyed the first Cars. I actually would go so far as to say I love the first Cars. Second Cars is one of the worst animated movies I've ever seen. It's like so bad. I think I gave it a D, maybe a D plus if I was being generous. I probably gave it a D plus. But no other Pixar movie has even gone below, I think, a B or a B minus. Like, they've all been positive grades, and then Cars 2. But then Cars 3 I liked. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But I know a lot of people have some feelings about Cars. If you like the franchise, I think you will get a kick out of these shorts. If your kids like the franchise, I think they will enjoy these shorts. Basically, each episode, they're going to like a different thing. And there are some heavy movie parody things in here. It reminded me a lot, actually, of when I was a kid and like Tiny Toon Adventures was on, or like DuckTales sometimes would do like a movie parody type thing. It reminds me a lot of that. There was like a Mad Max thing here, and there was like a Jurassic Park thing here, whatever. So it was pretty fun. And one of the newcomers is Quinta Brunson from Abbott Elementary. She, I think, is in maybe 3 or 4 of these episodes. And she's like their new pal or whatever. But look, this was a lot of fun. I like being back, with my friends. I love Owen Wilson. I think I love him as Lightning McQueen. I was about to say that it's actually one of my favorite roles for him, because I sort of go back and forth on how much I like him. But I do love him as Lightning McQueen. I can't deny that. So yeah, I think this is cute. If you like Cars, I would check these ones out. Cars on the Road gets a B plus. Best show of the week. And really, there's only 2, strong recommends here, which is this one and Gutsy. And Gutsy sort of comes with that caveat of, if you hate the Clintons, you're not going to like it. I mean, I guess Cars, same thing. If you hate that Cars franchise, this won't be for you either. But in any event, that is going to do it for TV news and reviews this week. Sometimes we have all positive. Sometimes, we lean more into the negative. But hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have some better news to talk about, because my buddy Tim is joining me for a couple of episodes about the new broadcast series. Not all of them have even premiered yet. Some of them are still to premiere in the next week or 2. But we're going to tackle, the I don't know, 10 or 11 biggest shows on the broadcast networks this season. But I think I'm going to do one more episode of the regular stuff before that, because we've got to watch the Jeffrey Dahmer show on Netflix. It's getting all that buzz, and many, many other things. There's a lot of things going on. American Gigolo with John Barenthal on Showtime. So anyway, we will see y'all next week for another TV news and reviews. Thanks for watching. Bye.